Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I am Matt. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to check out the Nord Kit by SMOK. This is an all-in-one device that comes with an MTL coil head and also a mesh sub-ohm coil head, 1100 milliamp hour battery. So let's go ahead and dive into it. This is what your packaging is going to look like. Also, one thing to mention is that SMOK now has this counterfeit protection emblem here. Apparently there's some sort of laser technology going on and it's really hard to duplicate. So if you're wondering if your SMOK device is real or not, look at the S's. It should move when you do that. See that? Okay. Apparently there's a lot of fake SMOK products out there, so that's why they're doing stuff like this. Now inside you are going to have a user manual, a warranty card, your Nord device, and this is going to come in a bunch of different color combinations. This is the one I've been using. I like the white and black, but as you can see, it's got the same type of styling as the Novo kit. It's got that honeycomb design on it. Then you have a charging cable and two coil heads. Okay, so this thing's about 94 millimeters tall, about 30 millimeters wide, and about 18 millimeters thick. 1100 milliamp hour battery, like I said. Says Nord on one side, SMOK on the other. This is a push button device, unlike the Novo. You got your charging port on the bottom there, micro USB. Little window in your pod right there, so you can see your liquid level, but it's not super duper easy to see. You know, once it gets past a certain point, you're not going to see it anymore. So to get that pod out, you pull out like so, and it does have a press fit design. There's no magnets on here. Your fill port's right there. There is what your contacts look like down inside. Feels like a mixture of plastic and zinc alloy, kind of like with the Novo here. Okay, basically the exact same materials, just a little bit bigger. Now you do have a fairly large size mouthpiece in that pod. You can see the chimney itself isn't very big, but then it flares out here in the mouthpiece, okay? So it's a bigger mouthpiece than what you're going to see in the Novo. Now, these are the two coil heads that you're going to get with it. One is a 1.4 ohm MTL coil head, and that's this guy. And then the other is a mesh coil head, and it's called Nord Mesh. This one is 0.6 ohms. Kind of hard to see it down inside there, but it looks like a single mesh coil, maybe more of a strip coil, I guess you would call it. And airflow comes in through the bottom there. And you're also going to be able to buy separately a ceramic coil, but that is not included in this kit, at least not in the kits that I got. So I already have what's called the regular coil in my other one, the normal 1.4 ohm MTL. We're going to put the mesh coil head in this one. And I'm going to attempt to get a couple drops of juice down in there, but these are not easy to prime. Not the end of the world. You're just going to want to let it sit in the tank a little bit longer than you would maybe some sub-ohm tanks that have coil heads that are easier to prime. So now these don't screw in or anything like with the Breeze 2 and all-in-one systems like that. These just press fit in. So you got airflow slots on the outside there. You want to keep them on the outside like so on the two sides. And then you just press this guy down in there and it's held together by an O-ring. Okay, so it's all the way in now. They say 3 mLs of liquid, but as you can see, the MTL coil is a little bit smaller than the mesh, so you're probably going to get a little bit less with the mesh coil head. Now to fill this, you got this little rubber tab right here. And I'm just going to hold that back. And now we fill. Nice large fill port. Now you just push the plug down in, and there it is. Next, you insert your pod. This can go either way, because remember, you got 3 contacts right there, and those are going to be hitting the outside here and then the center there. So you just push it down. It has a nice fit, no movement or anything once it's in there. And then to turn this on, 5 clicks. That'll flash at you, and then now it's your fire button. Has a little bit of a click to it, not a bunch of travel. You can obviously turn this off when you put it in your pocket. 2 clicks will show you your battery meter. It's green. Green is above 70%. It'll go orange, 30 to 70%, then red under that. This does also have different protections built in. It's got an 8-second shut-off protection, short circuit protections, all that good stuff. So it is not just a completely unregulated device, but it does not regulate your wattage. So you will notice the vape will slowly get a little bit weaker as your battery dies, but it's not super duper noticeable with this one. Now, as far as size comparisons go, there it is next to the Novo. A little bit wider, a little bit thicker, a little bit taller. Here it is next to Aspire's AIO. This one's a little bit taller, but the Aspire is wider. Here it is next to the Breeze 2. Just about the same thing, almost the same height, but the Breeze is a little bit wider that way. And here's one more look at that white one that I've been using. I have the MTL coil head in this. Now, as far as your airflow goes, the air does look to get in from the side. So, little slot right there, little slot right there, kind of like what we've seen in some of the other all-in-one devices, but this one does not have airflow control. Okay, let's go ahead, go up top, vape this, and talk about it a little more. All right, here is the SMOK Nord kit. This one has the MTL coil head inside. I have a 12 milligram liquid in it. Let's vape it. Now this one has the mesh sub-ohm coil inside. Let's vape that. Actually quite like that, surprisingly. Okay, let's talk about the draw on both of these. Now, with the 1.4 ohm coil head installed here, it's still a fairly loose MTL. Compared to the Novo, I would say this maybe has a little bit less airflow, but they're fairly close. And, you know, one of my complaints with the Novo was that it's a bit of a loose draw for MTL, but a lot of people out there do like it. For me, I like a tight MTL draw. I will say that I think the vape is more satisfying on the Nord because it's a warmer vape, and I attribute that partially to the fact that this one has a button. Well, a lot of times with the push button pod style devices out there, they ramp up faster, and so they just get warmer quicker, if that makes sense. Like this one, I can make it warm, but I got to do some primer puffs. But with this one, it seems to just hit faster. And that's one of the reasons why I personally just tend to gravitate more towards push button pod style devices. Whether it be the Breeze 2s or the EQs or the Orions or this one, I just like push button pod type devices better. I know that this isn't exactly a pod device because you do put coils in and out, right? It's not a swapping out pod situation, but it's still, you know, it's a pod style. Now, as far as the draw on this one goes, on the mesh coil, it's a restricted lung hit. It's a little bit on the tighter side of restricted lung hits. But it's actually pretty satisfying. It's fairly warm too. Flavor's really nice. Just to compare, because obviously I've been using my Serpent Elevate a lot lately. This one's still got a bit tighter of a draw. If I was to close the Elevate down halfway, we're getting close there. So it's a tighter restricted lung hit. Let's talk pros and cons with these guys, the Nord. First off, no adjustable airflow. Its competitors do have that, like the Breeze 2, things like that. It does have adjustable airflow. The EQ does not, but the EQ does have adjustable wattage. So this also does not have adjustable wattage. So you're stuck with the airflow setting that it gives you, and you're also stuck with the wattage setting that it gives you. One other subjective con is going to be the mouthpiece. It's a fairly large mouthpiece. Like if you look at it compared to the Nord here, or I mean the Novo here, it's quite a bit bigger. Okay, if you look at it compared to the, where'd that Breeze 2 go? Yeah, it's closer to a Breeze 2 style mouthpiece, so just keep that in mind. If you have a small mouth like me, you might be too big for you. Besides that, that's really all I got with cons. Let's talk pros. First off, really like the build quality on these. Also, really like the aesthetics. Not a huge fan of some of the SMOK mods out there that are flashy and they got glossy paint and they look like a transformer and stuff like that. But with these, I like it. It gives you a sexy kind of style. You got the honeycomb. There's a little bit of a fleck paint job on it, but it's still pretty simple, pretty classy looking, pretty adult-like, and I dig it. One of the better looking pod style devices out there, in my opinion, and I felt the same way about the Novo. Also, flavor on these is really nice. They have those vertical coils in there, and they're really close to your mouth. You know, they're right here, and then here's your mouthpiece. So closer to your mouth than a lot of tank systems out there, like sub-ohm tanks and whatnot. So while the heat on the mesh coil here here is about middle of the road. You know, if it had adjustable wattage, I would maybe turn it up 5 watts or so. It's still very, very flavorful, and it's because that coil is so close to your mouth. Being someone that likes restricted lung hit vapes, if I wanted something super stealthy, I would be fine with using this throughout a day. I get more than enough flavor. I get more than enough vapor. It's a good draw. It's very smooth. So I'm more impressed than I thought I would be as far as the mesh coil goes. As far as the MTL coil goes, it's a pretty warm vape, even though it's a looser MTL draw. I dig it. The only thing I really wish for my style of vaping is that the MTL coil draw was a little bit tighter. There is another ceramic coil out there. That one might make the draw even tighter, but I haven't tried it. But I just wish it was a little bit tighter draw with the MTL coil, but really, really like the draw on the mesh coil. As far as battery life goes, if you're using the MTL coil with a higher milligram nicotine, you should be able to get through a whole day with this 1100 milliamp hour battery, no problem. I don't think you're going to get through a whole day using a 0.6 ohm mesh coil though. You're using it at a higher wattage. You might tend to vape it more often, which people do. They tend to chain vape looser draw vapes more often. They have lower nicotine in them, so on and so forth. So I wouldn't expect to get a full day's worth of battery out of the mesh coil, but I do think you'll get through a full day, no problem with the MTL coil. Size-wise, it's about perfect for me. I think that it's a really nice balance between a good amount of battery life and still being really, really pocketable. It's nice to hold in the hand. The button's easy to press. I usually just thumb fire it like that. So all in all, I'm impressed, and I do think it's a much more satisfying vape than what I get off of the Novo. The Novo was just too loose of a draw for me, and it was a bit too cool of a vape. The flavor was still pretty good on it. It performs well, but for me, you know, I'll go with a bigger device that has a button all day long over a smaller device that does not. It's a warmer, more satisfying vape to me. Now, as far as price goes, $30 is going to get you this kit. You're going to get the 2 coil heads. I looked and I saw Vapor Beast is selling packages of coil heads. They have 5 packs of the coils, and they range in that like $20 to $25 range. So not the cheapest coils out there. As far as the MTL coils go, one should last you a whole week, no problem though. The mesh one should last you at least a week as well, because mesh coils just do that, and you're not running it at a super duper high wattage. You might even get 2 weeks out of a mesh coil. So the coils aren't cheap, but they will last.